I didn't believe in haunted places, not really. But there's something about Cedar Ridge that sticks to you, like sap under your fingernails or that cold sweat you get before a fever breaks. It started with a letter. I was sorting through my late Uncle Howard's estate. He had no kids, no spouse, and lived most of his life alone in a crumbling Victorian house on the outskirts of Boontown, Vermont. He'd always been the black sheep of the family, eccentric, reclusive, obsessed with folklore and ancient religions. We called him the Professor, though I don't think he'd taught a class in 20 years. I wasn't expecting much from the inheritance. Maybe some antique books, weird trinkets, dusty taxidermy. But at the bottom of a drawer in his study, I found a sealed envelope addressed to me. The handwriting was unmistakably his, neat, precise, with odd capitalizations. If you're reading this, I am likely dead by now. Do not mourn me. Instead, listen. There's a cabin buried deep within Cedar Ridge Forest. I have left you the coordinates. You must go there, not to stay, just to see. Just once, then seal it. Forever. There was a map, a hand-drawn set of directions over a topographical rendering of the woods. The cabin was marked with an X. Just below it, written in pencil, "Do not stay after dark." I should have laughed it off, chalked it up to his madness. But curiosity, mixed with grief and a touch of guilt, got the better of me. It was autumn, the leaves a blanket of orange and red, the days crisp and short. I figured I'd hike in, snap a photo, pay my respects to the old man's ghost, and leave. One day, two, tops. I packed light, flashlight, tent, notebook, trail mix, and a flask of whiskey. I drove to the last trailhead on the north side of the forest and parked. No one else was around. Even the park ranger station was shuttered for the season. The hike took longer than expected. The trail turned to brambles within an hour, and the terrain grew steeper, rockier. The trees leaned unnaturally inward, their branches forming an archway that blocked much of the fading light. When I found the cabin, it looked abandoned. Not ruined, abandoned. As though someone had left it in a hurry, but with the intention of coming back. The door was slightly ajar. A thin trail of smoke rose from the chimney, despite there being no one in sight. I stepped inside. It was warm, lived in. Dusty, but not decayed. A fire burned low in the hearth. A kettle hung over it, bubbling softly. The air smelled of cedar and something else. Something acrid, metallic. I called out. No answer. The interior was small. A bed, a bookshelf, a worn table with two chairs. On the wall, a series of photographs had been nailed in a perfect grid. All black and white. All of the same thing, the cabin. But in each photo, something was off. A branch moved. A window open in one frame, closed in the next. A shadow growing closer. In the last photo, something stood just outside the cabin. Tall, antlered, and indistinct. I turned away, heart thudding. That's when I noticed the floor. There was a trapdoor. Uncle Howard had drawn it in pencil on the back of the map. A small square with a note. Do not open unless you are ready to see. The hollow listens. I shouldn't have opened it. I know that now. But I did. The smell hit me first. Damp, earthy rot, tinged with the sharpness of decay. I shone my flashlight into the hole. Stairs descended into darkness. Rough-hewn, twisting. I went down. Why, I couldn't tell you. The air felt charged, like the space between lightning and thunder. The walls narrowed. The wood gave way to stone. My footsteps echoed. After what felt like a mile, the tunnel opened into a chamber. A circle of stones stood in the center, surrounding a pit filled with black water. Shelves lined the walls, filled with jars of bones, feathers, and things I couldn't identify. At the far end, a table. On it, an open book, bound in something dark and cracked with age. The writing was in my uncle's hand. The entries started decades ago. The hollow is a memory, a sentience. It feeds on attention. The more you see it, the more it sees you. The cabin is the anchor. I thought I could watch it, record it, contain it. I was wrong. Each entry grew more erratic. It walks above me now, sometimes in the guise of mother, sometimes in my own skin. It shows me things I never lived, screams and voices I know. It wants out. The last entry was just a line. If you're reading this, it knows your name. I stumbled back. That's when I heard it. Footsteps above me. Then a voice. Soft. Like leaves rustling. Come back up. It was my voice. I ran. Up the stairs, past the trapdoor, and out the front door. But it was night. The sun had set while I was below. The forest was black and endless. No moon, no stars. I turned to look at the cabin, and the door slammed shut. The smoke stopped. The lights died. And in the window, I saw it. Me. Staring back, smiling. I ran and branches tore at my clothes. Roots clawed my ankles. The trees were too close. They whispered as I passed. I didn't look back. I found the trail. I found my car. I drove for hours without stopping. That was 2 years ago. But the hollow followed me. It's subtle. A figure in a photo that wasn't there before. A knock on the window when no one is outside. Sometimes my reflection lingers a second too long. I tried to burn the map. It wouldn't catch. I tried to warn others, but no one believes me. Until they see it too. Until they dream of the cabin. Until they feel that hum in the earth beneath their feet. The hollow is awake now. It remembers us. And it wants out. If you find the cabin, if you ever find it, do not open the trapdoor. Seal it, salt it, burn it. And for God's sake, don't stay after dark. I never believed in ghost stories, but I should have listened to my grandfather. When I was a kid, he used to tell me tales about a man with a lantern who wandered the woods behind his cabin. He said the lantern man wasn't a ghost exactly, more like something that had once been human and got lost somewhere between the world of the living and the dead. Grandpa always said, if you see his light, don't follow it, and never look him in the eye. I used to laugh, thought it was just one of those stories old folks tell to keep you close to the porch after dark. But last fall, I found out the truth. It started when I inherited the cabin. After Grandpa passed, the cabin sat empty for a year. No one in the family wanted it. It was too far out, too old, too strange. I volunteered to fix it up, maybe sell it. I figured a weekend of clearing brush and patching up the roof would be easy enough. A little quiet in the woods sounded nice. The cabin was just how I remembered. Small, creaky, and nestled deep in the forest, miles from the nearest neighbor. The air was thick with pine and wet leaves. It felt untouched, almost suspended in time. I unlocked the door, stepped inside, and was immediately hit with a wave of nostalgia and a strange smell I couldn't quite place. Sweet, almost like something rotting beneath flowers. I chalked it up to mildew. That first night, I built a fire, cooked some beans on the old wood stove, and opened a beer. I was tired and full and warm when I first heard the click. It was soft, barely there, like someone flipping a lighter. Then I saw it, a flicker of light through the trees outside. Yellow, steady, a lantern. I froze. My brain didn't jump to ghosts. I thought it was a hiker, or maybe a hunter. But no one should have been out there, especially not that far off the trail, especially not at night. The light swayed gently, coming closer. I turned off my lantern and watched through the cracked window. Whoever was holding it moved slowly, deliberately. No stumbling, no flashlight bounce, just a steady gliding pace. Then, just as it reached the tree line, it stopped, right outside the cabin. My heart was hammering in my chest. I couldn't see the person, just the light, hovering about 6 feet off the ground. It didn't move for what felt like forever. Then it blinked out. Gone, no sound, no footsteps, just gone. I didn't sleep much that night. The next morning I checked the woods. No footprints, no sign anyone had been there. But on the porch, just beside the door, I found something strange, a coin. Old, smooth, and blackened by time. Not American. It had strange lettering around the edge, and a symbol on one side. A single open eye. I brought it inside thinking it might be something Grandpa had dropped. Put it on the windowsill and tried to forget about the light. That was a mistake. The second night, it came back. This time, I was ready, or thought I was. I kept the lights off and waited. Around midnight, the click came again. Then the glow. Closer this time. It weaved through the trees like it knew where I was. And this time, it knocked. 3 slow knocks on the door. I didn't move, I didn't breathe. Then it spoke. Not loudly, like it was whispering through wood. "You have something of mine." I didn't answer, didn't dare. Another knock. "The coin, bring it to the hollow." The hollow. I remembered that place. Grandpa used to tell me never to go there. A low bowl in the forest, where nothing grew, not even moss. He said it was where the lantern man slept. I stayed frozen on the couch until dawn. When the light broke through the trees, I finally moved. I grabbed the coin and hurled it into the woods as far as I could. It didn't help. The third night was worse. I woke up to find the cabin door open. The coin was sitting on the kitchen table. And there were footprints. They weren't muddy or dusty, just wet, as if someone had stepped through shallow water. They led from the door to the table, and then to the couch where I had slept. I checked the locks. Nothing was broken. The windows were still latched, but someone or something had been inside. I packed my things. I was ready to leave. Screw the cabin, screw the repairs, screw everything. But when I got to the dirt road, my truck wouldn't start. The battery was drained, completely dead, like something had sucked the power from it. There's no signal out there, no neighbors, just trees and silence. I had 1 bar of signal. I stood on the old water tower near the back of the property. I climbed up, hands shaking, and managed to call a tow truck. But they said it would take until morning to reach me. I'd have to wait. One more night, I built the fire big. I kept every light in the place on. I sat in the middle of the room with a hammer in one hand and a bottle of whiskey in the other. I didn't care if I was drunk. I just didn't want to be afraid anymore. But fear doesn't care about resolve. Around 1 a.m., the lights all went out, one by one. Then I heard the door creak. I didn't look, I couldn't, but I felt it. The presence, cold and sharp, like needles in my skin. And then the voice, again, closer this time, clearer. "You took it, you woke me." I turned, and I saw him. He was tall, bone-thin, dressed in blackened rags that looked centuries old. His skin was pale, stretched tight over his skull. And in his hand he held the lantern, flickering with a flame that was blue, not yellow. But the worst part, he had no eyes, just empty sockets, bleeding shadow. And still, he looked at me. He stepped forward. I stepped back. I held up the coin. "Take it!" I shouted. "Take it and leave me alone!" But he didn't move. Not until I dropped the coin on the floor. The moment it hit the ground, he vanished. Not slowly, not with a fade or a whisper, just gone. The next morning, my truck started like nothing had happened. The forest felt lighter. Still, I didn't look back when I drove away. I told myself I imagined it. Stress, grief, isolation. Maybe I hallucinated it all. But then a few weeks ago, I got a package. No return address. Inside was a single object. The coin, same open eye, same strange lettering. And a note, written in jagged handwriting. "You saw him. Now you carry the light." I used to crave silence. After 15 years working in emergency dispatch, with sirens in my ears and panic in every call, I longed for quiet like some people long for religion. That's what led me to the cabin in the Adirondacks. It belonged to my cousin Danny. He used to use it for hunting trips until he vanished last year. No one ever found him. I needed to get away. Badly. So when my therapist suggested a full week off-grid, no phone, no people, no noise, I remembered Danny's cabin. I didn't tell anyone where I was going. Just packed a duffel and drove north until the road stopped looking familiar. By the time I got there, dusk was falling. The cabin was exactly how I remembered it from when we were kids. One room, wood stove, oil lamps, a tiny cot, and beyond the porch, woods so thick the trees seemed to lean in. I told myself the silence would be good for me. I was wrong. Day one, I slept like a corpse the first night. No sirens, no buzzing phones, just the soft creak of old timber and the wind through pine needles. When I woke, I found something strange. My boots were wet, soggy, like I'd walked through morning dew, but I hadn't gone outside. I chalked it up to a draft. The floorboards were warped. Maybe something had leaked in. Later that afternoon, while chopping firewood, I noticed a pit behind the cabin. It wasn't very wide, maybe 4 feet across, and perfectly round. No leaves inside, no debris, just packed, black soil. I didn't remember it being there as a kid. It gave me a weird feeling, like vertigo. I couldn't tell how deep it went. When I dropped in a rock, I never heard it land. Day 2. I dreamed of water. Rising black water pressing against a wooden ceiling and something just beneath the surface, watching, reaching. I woke up gasping. The cabin was freezing. The fire had gone out hours earlier, but the air felt wet, like a swamp. That day, I walked the perimeter of the cabin, trying to shake the unease. Every time I passed the pit, I felt something, a pull, like the kind you feel standing at the edge of a high place. I nearly leaned in, just to see, but something in my gut screamed no. Day 3. The pit was closer. Not a lot, maybe a few inches, but I was sure of it. The moss that used to be between it and the firewood pile was gone, and the ground around it looked disturbed, dug up, like something had crawled out. That night, I heard footsteps, heavy, slow, circling the cabin. I didn't move, just lay still in the cot, holding my breath, listening. Then, something tapped on the window. I sat up, heart racing, and the tapping stopped. There was no one there, only fog pressing against the glass. But the worst part? There were muddy footprints inside the cabin. Just 2, leading from the door to the cot. To me. Day 4. I tried to leave. I packed my things at dawn and started hiking the trail I'd driven in on. But after a few hours, I realized something was wrong. The landmarks were out of order. A tree that had been on my left going in was now somehow on my right. I circled back. The forest felt wrong, like it was watching it. When I returned to the cabin, the pit was right next to the porch. There was something new inside it, a rope ladder leading down. That night I heard my cousin Danny. He was calling my name. "Come down," he said. "It's not bad, just cold. Come see." I blocked the door with the cot. Day 5. I'm not proud of what I did, but I started drinking. There was a bottle of whiskey in the cupboard Danny must have left behind. I drank until the whispers stopped, until the shadows crawling across the floor didn't look like hands reaching anymore. In the middle of the night, I woke up to the sound of a voice in my ear, a whisper but clear, "You're already below." I jumped out of bed, and the door wasn't where it should have been. There was dirt where the windows used to be. Roots hanging from the ceiling. I screamed, tore open the door, and saw blackness. Not night, stone. I was underground, buried. Day 6. I woke up back in the cabin, on the cot, fire burning. Everything where it should have been. Except the pit. It wasn't outside anymore, it was in the middle of the cabin. Perfect circle, same ladder. I should have run, smashed everything and lit the place up. But I didn't. I stood at the edge. I looked down, and I saw Danny. He was standing at the bottom, pale, wide-eyed, wet. "Please," he said, "don't leave me down here." His voice was wrong. Hollow, like it had to echo off dead things to reach me. I shut the trapdoor. I nailed it shut with boards and splitwood and anything I could find. Day 7. I didn't sleep. I sat by the fire, shotgun in hand, waiting for morning. But the light never came. Not at dawn. Not at noon. The sky stayed dim. Gray. Timeless. Time doesn't move the same way here anymore. The whispers are constant now. They call from the pit, the walls, the fire. Sometimes they sound like Danny. Sometimes they sound like me. I don't know if I ever left. I don't know if I ever got here. Maybe the silence I craved brought me somewhere I can't come back from. If you find this, if you find the cabin, don't go inside. If you hear someone calling your name from below, don't answer. Whatever's in that pit isn't human anymore. And it's hungry for company.